Good evening. I find myself in the unique position of being between you and a cocktail, so I will try and be as brief and concise as I possibly can. I've been in the seafood industry a long time, and I've seen the best of it, and I've seen the worst of it. And what is happening right now, and the benefit that you will receive by being involved in the seafood industry in today's environment will help you immensely as compared to what Ellen's been talking about, fisheries collapsing, sustainability not on anybody's radar. And I can speak to it from the perspective of my own experience. Actually, in the mid-90s, do I have to? There we go. In the mid-90s, Ellen mentioned briefly about the collapse of some fisheries, many fisheries. The Canadian cod fishery was the primary resource for the company that I was with at the time. Happens to be a global company. It's called Highliner Foods today. But they were solely reliant and had a fishing fleet that was harvesting cod off the Grand Banks. And that fishery collapsed, completely collapsed, and as of today, it's still closed for commercial fishing of cod. And the result of that was the reason the MSC was started. It was started in a collaboration between the WWF and Unilever, who at the time was one of the largest consumers for production purposes of cod in the world globally. And their interest was to prevent the collapse of any other fishery in any part of the world from ever happening. We know that that's not realistic. We just heard how unrealistic it is. But the mission of the Marine Stewardship Council is essentially that. It's to redeem the oceans and bring them back so that they are thriving with life. And we've succeeded, we've failed, but we have some good success to point to over the last 15 years. Today, our fisheries are wild capture only. There are agencies and certification programs out there that do aquaculture as well as wild capture. We do not do that. We do exclusively wild capture fisheries. And as of today, we have over 10 million metric tons. As of the end of May, we have 282 fisheries. And what we classify as a fishery is the number of certification or certificate holders that hold the rights to market and promote their products as MSC certified. The 282 species of fisheries that are updated are actually 163 or so that are actually fully assessed. They are actually certified as sustainable. The others are in what we call pre-assessment. The MSC program is complex in a lot of ways, and as you bring a fishery into the process, companies can get overwhelmed by it because it is extremely complex. But what we try to do is we try to work together as an intermediary between the fisheries clients and what we call the chain of custody. And you'll hear more about that as I move forward. We try to make sustainable fisheries accessible to a harvester, a processor, a consumer. That's really the essence of what we do collectively at MSC. At the core of the program, we have three components. And as we talk about other companies and other agencies, I was asked numerous times today, well, what's the difference between you and what the MSC does versus some of the other NGOs that are out there, some of the other agencies that are promoting themselves? I can only speak to what we do. I know my program, and I know of a lot of them, but I can tell you the one core difference is that we have a program that certifies fisheries as sustainable. We're not a referral program. We don't tell people that a red fish or a green fish or a blue fish is better for you. That's wonderful. If you don't have access to any other information, it's a start. But if you are processing, if you are a manufacturer of any sort that puts your brand on your product, and it's your name, or you're trusting somebody to put your brand on your product, then you need to know, where does that fish come from? And if you were questioned about the sustainability of that particular fishery, you have to speak with authority to say, I know where it came from, and I know that it was sustainable. So whoever you decide to use when you decide to go down that path of sustainability, I would ask that you at least look at it from that perspective, because it's your name that's on that bottle. So from the perspective of what we do, is we have 3 components to our program. Our program looks at the sustainability of the fishery, whatever fishery it happens to be. You must be able to meet that first criteria, and if you can't move forward in the process. This process of ours takes, at the minimum, it can take 18 months, it can take 2 years. We have some fisheries that have been in the process 5 years, trying to bring that fishery into assessment, allowing it to go through the process of management plans and fishery improvement projects to help that fishery for a variety of reasons, and I'll talk about some of those later. The second component of it is the environment. What we do is we take that fishery, we look at it exclusively, just that one fishery, and we look at it, how does that fishery impact the ecosystem? Does that one fishery that's a low trophic fishery like Ellen was referring to, what is the impact of it? If that fish that we're trying to certify is not eating the fish that it's in the ecosystem designed to be feeding off of, if that's not available to them, they will move into another area. And that means that it's overfished. It's not in its natural environment. It's just one of the things that we look at, but the environment in the ecosystem, again, extremely important component. And the third piece of it is the management system. Voluntarily, and exclusively voluntarily, fisheries come into our program by clients, what we classify as clients. Collectively in this group, if we decided we wanted to bring a fishery in to be assessed, we could do that. Every one of us could share the cost of bringing that fishery into assessment, or it could be one of us. It doesn't matter, we don't stipulate, but you have to be able to meet the criteria of the program. And essentially, we use third-party independent certifiers to assess and evaluate the fisheries. We wrote the standards. The MSC, in conjunction with a number of different scientific agencies, wrote the standards by which this program thrives on. And the third-party auditors are the ones that are actually performing the assessments. We are an international nonprofit. I repeat that again. We're a nonprofit. We are fully transparent. Everything that we do, every fishery, every part of the process is available on our website. You can go in, you can track a fishery, you can track who the client is, you can see how long it's been in, how healthy that stock is, anything that you need to know. We actually have a component that's called the chain of custody, and part of that is that we guarantee through this program that all of the information is credible, it can be tracked, it's fully compliant with the United Nations Food and Agriculture, which is the gold seal of where you derive your sustainable practices from. And in that same vein, we use that same process from the FAO guidelines to certify our chain of custody. And what chain of custody means is boat to plate. And that's the other piece of it that I want to keep reiterating to you. Some of my predecessors were talking about the companies and the agencies that they have actually done business with. And We look at this graph the same way. We know the value of a brand, your brand, anyone's brand. It's the recognizable factor that breeds confidence in a product. And we look at this chart, and there's no brands on there, but I can tell you that in 2008, the reason there was a significant jump in the participation in this program is because that's when Walmart said, by the end of 2013, all of the products that we buy, seafood, will come from the MSC certified fisheries only. Now, they've amended that a bit because they can't survive on only MSC certified fish. We'd like to think so, but we're not there yet. But that's the reason that the spike happened, and the spike has continued since that time because of that one announcement by one company that said sustainability was important to them, not just in one aspect of their world, but in all aspects of their environment. I can tell you since that time, in 1 month alone, last month, we had 50 fisheries that were certified as sustainable. And that happens on a monthly basis now because organizations and companies like yourselves understand that sustainability is not just for one part of your business. It is now in all parts, in all phases. And this program here, the chain of custody, is what you can hang your hat on. And it doesn't have to be ours exclusively. It's one of the questions that you might want to ask when you are engaged in this process, is where does it come from? Who harvested it? Does it have a certificate, which all sustainable fishery has a certificate number assigned to it that it carries throughout the process? Was it harvested ecologically? Is it following the guidelines? And it applies to everyone in the supply chain, from the time it's harvested all the way through the time that it's bottled in your plant. Or at that point there, you can trace it back because everyone in that line has a certificate number that they are required to provide to establish that credibility. These are just some of the companies in the US that have moved into chain of custody, the MSC program. Loblaws in Canada made a statement that by the end of 2013, all of their products in the seafood case will derive from MSC certified fish. Target, a big supporter, Costco, all the big names in retail. If you look at it from the perspective globally, you can see some of the biggest names in the industry have been with this program for quite some time. They are not just new to the movement. We know that 2 billion people around the world survive on a daily basis by eating fish. It's not just go out to dinner on Saturday night and get my prerequisite 2 servings of fish a week. These are people that rely solely on fish as subsistence. And this program was developed for the purposes of bringing awareness to those fisheries in those developing worlds, whereby we can marry up consumers and suppliers with these, and some of these fisheries are actually artisanal fisheries, but some of them have quite a bit of substance to them. And so we want to bring focus to them, primarily to sustain their food chain, but also to bring awareness where those developing worlds can derive an income from that. And so we act as intermediaries, and we have volunteers within our system that are scientists who work along with all of the other all of the other sustainable fisheries, that they have volunteered their time to provide information, support, guidance to the Developing World Program. It's relatively new. It's only been around for a couple of years at this time, but it has grown tremendously over the last 2 years from where it was. I'm not going to even get into the depths of this that that my associate did. But for us, we have emerging markets as well as everyone else has emerging markets. Well, these are our emerging markets. The growth for the MSC in supplements, and the next slide, has been enormous for us over the last couple of years. And salmon and krill are the two most common areas where we see the largest growth. And these fisheries have been certified for quite some time. Krill is newest. It's only been certified, I believe, since 2010, I believe it was certified. And salmon has been certified for a number of years. Again, from the perspective of supplements, all of these companies we are involved with, but also they have also adopted, and you recognize them as being MSC certified, as being certified. This one here might surprise people, but over the last year, we've had a number of companies, some of them I think might even be in this room, that have moved into pet food. And it has been really a tremendously interesting segment to speak to people that don't have food for consumption, but food for pets. And it's really been quite an adventure for us. This gives you an idea of the number of products globally that have and carry the MSC seal. As of today, at the close of business in May, it's over 15,100 products that carry the MSC Eco label on them. I will tell you that Europe has really grown tremendously since the start of the program in general. Germany is number one, and as Germany grew, other countries in Europe started to grow along with it, and it brought the path of that acceptance into Canada, and moved into Canada, and now we're starting to see it more and more into the United States. We are in 84 countries right now, and our growth has been 10 times over the period of 12 years, actually. In Europe, every fillet of fish has an MSC seal on it. They've adopted the program. In London, you can't go into a fishmonger's store and buy a product that isn't MSC certified. It's just not available. And we see many, many more. In the food service segment, I will tell you, it's the slowest to the party, but it's getting there. And companies like, some of you might recognize Cisco Corporation is the single largest broadline food service distributor in the United States. And they have committed that the top 10 products that they sell on an annual basis will be from MSC-derived products. Other companies like Sodexo. Sodexo is one of the largest contract caterers in the United States and globally. They're actually a global organization. They have committed also by the end of 2013, MSC certified or a fishery that is in pre-assessment or a fishery that's in confidential assessment. And the program has now evolved to the point where we are providing, through our partners, fishery improvement projects, which means that if a retailer, a harvester, or any entity along the supply chain wants to be involved in a fishery, but that fishery is not certified currently, they can help participate in bringing that program or that fishery into assessment. So it collectively brings all parties together. It doesn't mean that that entity owns it. It just means that they are contributing their time and their resources to bring that fishery into certification. I put this up here because, first of all, it's in every aspect of what we do. Business is business. And people look at their sustainability programs from a business perspective. And we understand that. We understand that the decisions that they make are the The decisions that they make are from a business perspective, and we understand that our goals are met when they do that. We have a program that meets their goals and meets our objectives as well. And at this point, I'm going to close by saying that 10 years ago, or just a couple of years ago, we had two companies. We had Whole Foods and we had Walmart. Those were our big players. Today, we have a total segment and total compliance in the policies that were written 15 years ago. And I want this thing very slow. Every fillet of fish in Europe, this is what's happened. It's keep happening. The market penetration in Canada is shortly, we're at 40% right now. It's going to jump as of the first of the year again. Into South Africa, South America, and South Wales in 2012. So we believe it's mainstream. We don't see it as something evolving any longer. We see it as mainstream. That's it.